Well, a very good morning to you and welcome to this episode of Your World. Well, today we want to talk about conflict in families and the journey of forgiveness and healing. Well, disagreements or difficulties within family relationships can stem from a number of things: unmet expectations, harsh words said in anger, misunderstandings, broken promises, or even a lack of compassion at times. Well, in these moments, it can be hard to know how to resolve the conflict and forgive one another, especially because we have been hurt by those we love the most. And well, to have this conversation with me this morning, I am not alone. I am with Cynthia Wambui Otieno, a life coach, also a love and life relationship coach. A very good morning to you. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you for having me.
Indeed. And we also do have Gakwandi Alian. A very good morning to you. She is the founder and managing director of Hope Mentorship Program, mostly dealing with young people.
Thank you so
sana.
Asante sana.
Indeed.
Thank you.
So, you know, this is a conversation that certainly would be very needful, because we live in a society that is innately, interconnected. But the most interconnected of these relationships is certainly the family setup. And there's so many things that happen. There's so many dynamics within the family setup. I'll begin with you, Gakwandi. What comes to your mind when we think of conflict that arises within the relationship in a family?
What comes to my mind is that family are the most important people in our life. We can't change them. We can't separate ourselves from them. We will always be part of them. I myself, I experienced conflict in my family because I lost my parents when I was 4 years. I had to be raised with another family. This was my uncle. I was abused in that family. I worked in a bar when I was 13 years. I used to be beaten in a way that when I go to school, I can't even sit on the chair. I grew up with the bitterness and anger in my heart, and I wanted to revenge. But thank God that He stopped me on the way. When I gave my life to Christ, He started teaching me the forgiveness, because on my own, I couldn't. And for sure, it has been a journey of healing. For now, I can share my story with confidence because I have received my healing because I forgive. So I want to say that it's in our society today, there is too much conflict in our family. But most of the people, they choose that to separate on their family. They say, I won't talk to you anymore. But these are your family. It has taken me many years. But when I look back, I just say, God, I thank you for enabling me to forgive my family. Because right now we can talk, we can smile. Yes, they never came back to ask me for forgiveness. But I forgive because I understood that forgiveness is for me. I needed my healing. So for me, I will say that we should know that family are the most important people in our life. We can't change them, but we can learn how to cope with challenges that we face within the family. Thank you.
All right. And I'll certainly come back to you, and perhaps you can share more of the situation that you went through, especially when you were a young girl as you were growing up. Cynthia, from that, she's just shared a small part of what she's gone through. Conflict in the families, and we grow up profoundly shapes us on who we are. And certainly how we look at things, how we manage our relationships outside. What comes to your mind when we think about those issues that stem from families?
All right. One of the things that is critical and very important to understand is that wherever there will be human beings, wherever there are human, there will be some amount of conflict. Think about it. In the animal kingdom, you will see conflict amongst animals as well. So conflict is there. Conflict is inevitable. But it's how we handle conflict that will be very important, especially now when it comes to the family setting. One of the things that I usually say when it comes to relationships and family is that you never get to choose family. Zainab, you choose friends based on likes, based on values, based on, you know, you have a traveling group, you will choose who you want to associate with. You have similar likes. But when it comes to family, we don't get to choose them. We never get to choose, I want this cousin to look like this. They have to like me.
Right.
You grow up with people that you possibly would not have been friends with.
Correct.
So you don't get to choose. So one of the greatest things that you can do is begin to grow and understand yourself first. Because when it comes to conflict, conflict means that I, as a human being, I've learned myself. I have understood who I am first, so that then I can have relationship with another. That relationship will be centered on the fact that I know who I am first. And that will be the beginning of you being able to manage other people.
All right. Gakwandi, still looking back at you know, your story, how long did it take you to reach that point of healing, you know, and forgiving your family members and saying, okay, look, we've been here, this is what I went through, but this is the time I start this journey?
I think it took me like 6-7 years. You know, this is something that started when I was 9 years. I don't know who is my mom and my dad.
Right.
And now I'm finding another place where people don't love me, they abuse me. So growing up in that kind of environment, for me to get to the point I forgive the wife to my uncle, and every time I share about my story, I say it's not because I want to speak bad about her, but is that she made me learn the importance of a family. Whereby I love what she's saying, we don't choose family. I find myself there. So God made me learn how to love them. But for sure, healing is a journey.
Okay.
And let nobody judge you. It's your personal journey. Walk through it, and don't push yourself. At the end of the day, you will get your healing. But it took me 7 years, almost like 7 years. And after that, still they come and hurt you.
All right.
But you have to learn to forgive and to forgive.
So it comes from yourself.
I will say, if it wasn't for God,
Right.
I wouldn't be sitting here.
Right.
I could have done something bad. But God stopped me in the middle of the journey.
Okay.
And He made me learn how to forgive.
All right.
I think for me, I would say it's through God. I won't say it's on my own.
A lot of prayer indeed.
Yeah, for
well,
sure.
Cynthia, she says forgiveness is not just, you know, a single event. I mean, sort of, you know, it's a whole process. It took us actually 7 years to understand and take herself through that journey to a point where there's a self-realization. Where do people begin from that point?
Oh, wow. Where do you begin?
Yes.
I like what she has just said. It's a process.
Right.
I usually equate it to an onion. When you start to cut through the onion, you have the process of the first layer.
Right.
You cry a little bit. The second layer, and the closer you get to the core, you have actually started to process, and you've processed, and it's a lot different. So I usually say, forgiveness starts with me, acknowledging that I am in pain. That's the first process of healing, is acknowledging that I was hurt and actually recognizing that this situation, I'm not okay with it. Forgiveness starts with me, acknowledging and accepting that I am in pain, you hurt me, or that situation is not okay with me, and acknowledging that. That's the beginning. Because if we don't get to that place, you will never heal. Healing is a journey. It's not an event. And healing can happen over a period of even 20 years. I meet people and they look back. I met a lady who was 46 years old. She was in one of my classes, and her process of healing is still taking place ever since she was a little girl. Things that happened to her with her mother, she is still healing. So it's not an event, it's a process, it's a journey. In any journey, Zainab, you will recognize that there will be, what do you call them, road bumps. You will hit a road bump. There'll be a detour. You will go around the detour.
It is not a straight journey.
It's not a straight journey, Zainab.
Right.
But it's important to begin with that I am not okay. As Cynthia, I'm not okay with this. And start from there. In the second thing, it will be very important that to process that the other person may not feel the same way as you do. And being okay, giving yourself permission to understand the other person is not going to walk with you kumbaya in the journey of forgiveness, but allowing yourself to say that it's me and my God, it's me and I choose this. Forgiveness is a choice. Forgiveness is also making boundaries around you, Zainab, that says that I will not allow this to happen to me again. I create some mikakatis that I decide, you know what? You are toxic, you are dangerous, you keep hurting me. So I make the decision that this relationship, forgiveness for me is that I have forgiven you, but this relationship may not be where I need to be because you have also unprocessed pain. So that's part of the journey.
But still there, I mean, the conflict will be there, and you know, we're talking about the journey, but we must also understand that it is not an easy decision.
It's not.
To make a decision to say, look, I forgive you, whether I do forget or do not forget, which is another whole issue. That is different.
Yeah. Yes.
So let me just start with Cynthia still. Why is it so hard to you know, be in that position where you make your mind and say, today I am forgiven so and so, and I make that as a resolution in my mind that today onwards it's a clean slate?
It's hard because you're emotionally vested.
Right.
You've got to realize that some of the scars that we get are emotional scars. You won't see them physically when you look at people, but they have emotional scars since their childhood. So what happens is that those scars are constant reminders. Some of us have triggers. You go into a certain space and you have the aura of what happened in this space. Forgiveness does not mean that you don't remember what it smelled like, what it tasted like, what the experience was. So it's realizing that yes, it's a journey, but being able to make certain decisions around that. If let's say, for example, it's a place or someone, it may require that part of your healing process is to separate yourself from that situation. That if I go to this certain place and it brings all my triggers back, then that place may not be healthy for my healing journey. This person that every time I speak to them, they gaslight me, they do all the same toxic words that brought back the bad memories and take me back into my hole, then forgiveness doesn't mean that I keep going back for the punches. Forgiveness is not that. Forgiveness is also being bold enough to come up higher and say that this situation brings me to a place where I keep going back in pain and disappointment and betrayal, and making a conscious decision that this space is it's not ground that I want to grow in, and making that decision. And it includes family.
All right. Gakwandi, in your process of forgiveness and healing, what are some of the motions you went through emotionally, you know, mentally? What are some of those things that you experienced?
First of all, like I remember, for me to reach the point that I felt like I needed to forgive, I remember one day I was in Rwanda and I was so tired. You know, you never know how something has damaged your life until you reach on the breaking point. I felt like enough is enough. And I was so tired in my heart. And I said, you know what, let's just end this life here. What else am I waiting for? My own family have rejected me. They have abused me. My own who's supposed to love me.
It pushed you to
the breaking point. So for me, that's the point I feel like, you know what, I need help. You know, like I love when Cynthia, she's saying, forgiveness, it will start with you. I knew that I needed to forgive people. I need to let go of the bitterness and the anger that was eating me from inside. Because I didn't know how it was eating me from inside until I was even abusing people around me. You know, because you start projecting to other people. You get into a relationship, someone done something and you feel like they are attacking you, and they're not. So for me, it's like it was a journey of starting to understand myself and know the people who are around me and not taking things personal, because I mean, it's like we say, it's a journey. And sometimes you could hear one of your family just say something about you, something bad. You're trying to heal, you're trying to forgive, but they can't recognize. And if you forgive, don't wait that person who hurt you to come and say, oh, I'm sorry. It's been almost like 15 years. She has never asked me for forgiveness.
But that thing is still fresh in your mind.
But what pains me is that she can't recognize. I wish she can come and talk to me. There's some things which you hear when someone comes and talk to you. But the fact that I can love her, and when you will know that you have forgiven someone, when you hear a bad news about them, do you go and say, that's their time, let them suffer? I suffer, me too, you know. But right now, I have that burden to pray for her, to ask God, may He, even her, God change her life. But it's a journey which you need to be more aware of yourself on how you feel from inside.
Let me ask you this. So we're talking about family, and not to minimize the experience that you went through. If you went through what you went through with someone who is not a family member, or you consider a family member, do you believe perhaps it would have had a less impact on you than the fact that it was happening, you know, within a family setup?
I think being hurt is, it doesn't mean but it comes so painful when there are people who are family, because these are the people who are supposed to love you. These are the people who are supposed to protect you, but they are the people who are attacking you, you know. So, but I don't think it can be less when they're not your family member, because it's still your heart, you know. So I don't think it becomes so painful because they are your family, but still, if they're not your family, it's still your heart. Yeah.
I mean, Cynthia, what is the relationship between being hurt and conflict within the people you love most? And you know, I know this is quite a broad subject. There's so many aspects into it, and how that affects you mentally and how you view life in general.
Wow. Just as I answer that question, I believe sometimes the heart is more within family because of expectations. You expect more from the people that you've grown up with, or the people that have responsibility over you. You have a higher expectation. The expectation that they should be your covering, expectation that they should be the ones who should know better. So because they know better, you want the love to be more abounding. So I feel that when heart comes from the family, then it means that the heart will be more. I find that people who have experienced hurt from family take a little bit longer than if it was their high school friend who hurt them. They take longer because the processing and the fact that you stay in the space of pain a little bit longer than in everybody else, because you don't have a high expectation from the guy on the street. If he calls you a name, you will just move on and say, oh, madman on the street. But if it's your cousin, or if it's your father, or if it's your mother, you will feel, oh my goodness, I have a higher expectation. So how
that hurts on a deeper level.
It hurts on a deeper level. And now I'm trying to remember what your question was.
No, basically how that affects, you know, your mental health.
Yes.
Because this suddenly brings about, I'll need to find that, I think it was a research done on how conflict within family actually increases the levels of depression.
Yes. It will increase the levels of anxiety within oneself. You find that you will be more anxious, you will have more depressive thoughts. It basically will happen again because there's a higher expectation within the family. There's a higher expectation in terms of intended outcomes. So the way a person processes, they're going to process it a little bit different and a little bit longer. So it's important that this conversation is had and is spoken about within family, especially within the African context. We do not talk about hurt. We do not talk about brokenness and conflict. It is very difficult for you to go and speak to your father or your mother or your cousin and say that you hurt me when you said. So what happens is that those words stay a little bit longer. And there's some things that are said when we are children,
right?
You know, things that were spoken. I was speaking to somebody and she was telling me that she was called a certain name when she was about 7 or 8 years old. She's a woman in her 40s, and she says, I hate that name. I hate the fact that I was called this and I believed it. What happens is that what we have heard from people of influence within family, those words stick. They stick like glue. And it changes the perception of who I am. It affects how I handle myself, how I begin to love myself, because family becomes the mirror that I look at myself. If your words make me see what is not truth, then I will walk around with a lie of what you said. Now, that is very critical, because we have a lot of wounded young men and women walking around with a reflection of what family said, which may not have been the truth, but that's what has been ingrained within their minds.
Their minds.
Yes.
All right. And before we take a short break here, just a quick comment. So someone says, my own siblings and I were raised inside the rapture that was my parents' marriage. The lifelong conflict sowed discord and division in everyone around them. I worked hard to create a different positive family climate with my own children, but those ghosts were still haunting me, and I did not want to ruin a good thing. So you can imagine, I mean, this is a person whose situation right now has been dictated by what they went through, the experience with their own families, the conflict between the parents, and now they're grown up. She has children of her own, but here we are. Look, we'll have that conversation much deeper as well. Talk to us. We'll be having our lines open as well in case you want to chime into the conversation. Remember, the hashtag we're using on social media is Your World at NTV Kenya. Zainab Ismail. Stay with us. We'll be back in a short while.
Mivida Garden City, a residential development within Garden City offering stunning 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, unique amenities and an urban green convenient living. Call us today on 0722 123 000. Mivida, my home, my life. The Nairobi Hospital Accident and Emergency Center is manned by well-trained doctors and emergency nurses who are focused at saving lives. With a network of labs, you're guaranteed of accurate medical test results. The Nairobi Hospital is a center of renal excellence, providing cutting-edge technology with over 10 dialysis machines.
I don't want to fight with you, but I also don't like you doing things behind my back.
Oh, behind your back, you say?
That's
the
right.
one going behind my back is you, because you see her behind my back.
But I've told you it won't happen ever again.
Marissa, for heaven's sake. Come on,
Please keep your voice down, Marcelo.
You were talking to me. The man you fell in love with
And
9
what
years
does
ago.
that have to do with
Everything
it?
has to do with it. Hey, come on. Wait a minute, Jackie. Hold on. Stop.
Oh!
Stop. Tell me, how come that Mr. Tadeo is now your manager, huh? Why him when he can hardly drive his car?
Hey, you didn't know anything about being my manager.
It had to be you.
Get an unsecured loan of up to 2.5 million shillings within 24 hours. Allow us to fully finance your water project, piping, solar installation, distribution, and your short-term working capital. Visit any Family Bank branch for more information.
Everybody feel it, come around, we grind, we grind. Everybody, 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 everybody. Oh, yeah! Everybody in the front, front, front. Everybody in the front, front, front. Everybody in the front, front, front.
The music right here on Nation FM is on another level. We're playing the best hits, the biggest hits, right here on 96.3 Nation FM. My name is Antonio Soul. It's the Nation FM Drive every single weekday, Monday to Friday, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. The best hits, the best conversation, the best guests. It's all about entertainment, business, politics, and everything in between. Call me Sugar, because I keep it sugar and spice and all things nice.
Everybody, everybody, round, around, around.
The Single African Air Transport Market is one of the flagship projects of Agenda 2063, with its goal being to create a single, unified air transport market for Africa, thereby liberalizing the civil aviation sector across the whole continent and aiding the economic integration agenda.
An additional 155,000 new jobs will be created. 1.3 billion will be added to the GDPs of the 12 countries, and it would make travel much more easier, cost-effective, and make it competitive.
When successfully synthesized with the AFCFTA and the Free Movement Protocol, the Single African Air Transport Market will be a catalyst for a new, integrated Africa.
Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Your World. We're having a conversation around conflict resolution and the journey of forgiveness and healing, especially when it comes to those we love the most, our family members. How do we go about that? And suddenly just moving past that experience. Now, Gakwandi, in terms of perhaps you've shared your journey so far, when it comes to, you know, the kind of approach that you would normally take while dealing with a person who's hurt you, how do you go about it? How have you gone about it looking back through the times you've tried to probably, you know, extend an olive branch?
Okay, as Sintash was saying, in African context, our parents, you don't go and sit with them, you know, you hurt me, you did this to me, and I was hurt.
It's not a conversation.
It's not a conversation. You don't do that, you know. So for me, I never got a chance to go and sit with her and talk of what happened, because I knew what she's going to tell me is that I took you when you are 7 years. Right. Nobody wanted you in your family, but I picked you. I gave you food. You went to school. You have a place to sleep. What else did you want me to give you? But you see, family, they miss that thing of being loved in that family, you know. So we feel like emotional affection, it's not need to the children, you know. So for me, I never got that chance to sit with her and talk, and for which it took me time for me to heal, you know, even to forgive, because I was expecting she would call me, Gakwandi, hello, can we talk of what happened, you know? That's what I expected, but it never happened. I remember one day, that's how I knew that I've forgiven her. She had an issue, and her own daughter called me and said, my mom, she's in need. I remember I was in Rwanda. I say, I leave everything there, I go and help her. I remember when she saw me at that time, she told me, among the people I raised, I never thought you'd be the one and come and help, because she hated me. We could meet somewhere and start beating me, and I haven't done nothing. But the fact that I was the one who went and help her, and that time that she needed someone, I think she saw the love of God, because that wasn't me, that for sure. So that was the good time for me to talk to her, but she never even opened up. She said, you know, at that time we were going through some stuff in the family, that's why whatever happened, you know, she never come to admit of what happened. But even me, after that, I understand that, because after the genocide, people went through a lot. Even the family now started projecting the anger toward the children. So with time, I started understanding her, but understanding her gave me to understand my life and accept where I was coming from. What Sita was saying, I had to accept this is where I was born. I am an orphan. I was rejected my own family. I wasn't loved. I was abused. This is where I come from. But this is my story. I learned to forgive. So you will never get that chance. That's why when you forgive, forgiveness is for you. Don't expect the other person to come and sit with you. This is what happened. But forgive because it's for you. For you to receive your healing. Thank you.
Cynthia, when it comes to navigating that situation around families, and she raises a very important point, Gakwandi, that it is not easy within our setups, especially African setups, to have a conversation with your parents. And there's an article that one of our viewers has shared with me on social media. It is about how to address your child, and part of it, I was just looking at it, it talks about communication. It says communication is the most crucial part of parenting, as it is it's fundamental to children's development. So how do you go about having a conversation, not just your mother, not even your parents? Maybe it's easy to have a conversation with your siblings, with perhaps your age mates, but even when perhaps they're older than you, sitting down with them and saying, look, you hurt me, we need to move past this, is not an easy task.
Thank you. I think this is such a pertinent conversation. I love it. I love it, Zainab. Thank you for bringing this up. Now, when it comes to the process, we've got to be very clear that when we start to have such a conversation, is that I recommend that we remain very factual. What is the issue that you're speaking about? Because what happens is that sometimes we can get caught up with many words and many emotions, and I think it's important for us to have the emotions and all that, but we need to communicate clearly what we are saying. What is the real issue that you are communicating, so that then the person hearing is not going to hear rabbit trails. They'll hear exactly what was the negative behavior that is hurtful. Remain factual. The second thing that is very important as you communicate is I would say extend the hand of that the reason why you are speaking about this issue is because it is also part of your healing process. It is my responsibility, it's my journey for me to heal. So the expectation is that it's about my healing process, so the other person does not necessarily have to join hands with you and run in the sunset, agreeing with whatever you're saying, but it's part of my healing journey. As I said, clarifying is very important. And then the last but not least, it's so important for you to acknowledge that, you know what, this may not be an event, today may not be the last day we are having this conversation. Just agreeing, even before you start that conversation, agree that maybe this may take several meetings, several conversations, but be willing to do that. Be willing to say that, you know what, this is my journey. I have seen people who have started off with a letter. And they started off with a letter because that created the distance with their perpetrator, with the person who offended them. They started with a letter before it became a face-to-face meeting. Choose what medium of communication makes you comfortable, because it depends on what issues you have in front of you. And like what Gakwendi says, you cannot be able to do this process if you do not subscribe to a higher being. For us, it's God. Have you prayed and asked God for how to do this process? Because again, we are created beings. Ask God for how is my process, and choose to heal. I say choose the process of healing. Remember?
It should come from you.
Yes,
Sure.
choose
Right.
to heal. Whether the person says, I'm sorry or not, it doesn't mean that the friendship will continue or the relationship can continue. But I choose. I was sharing something with a relative, I think my dad yesterday, and I was telling him that forgiveness, you know, lack of forgiveness is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. You know, if we do not forgive, you hurt the most. And I choose to forgive. I believe in the rule of forgiveness. It's the higher road.
Fundamental. All right. Just a quick comment here from Susie saying, research reveals that family conflicts without forgiveness is a building block of hormonal imbalances in women, metabolic issues even actually causes weight gain and you know, early aging. I need to.
Oops, we're in trouble.
Happy hormones causes laughter and love and healthy, you know, relationships. But of course, this is a research I need to fact check on. But look, let's flip it on the other side. So sometimes you can also be in a situation where you are the one who's wronged another person in a relationship, a family member in this instance, because that's the conversation we're having this morning. And where do you begin to, you know, start a conversation, or that's, you know, a process of asking for forgiveness? Because we always feel like we're the ones who are hurt, you know, but it can be the other way around as well. And I was giving an example earlier to Mark as he was handing over this show, that in a classroom setup, perhaps, you know, in primary school, if I can remember, when kids, you know, they hurt each other, there's a sort of a conflict. You know, there's an exchange of words, but then the teacher will come in and say, okay, say you're sorry. I'm sorry. You know, you say you're sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, fine. Okay, hug it out. You go. But see, that doesn't come from within. So, all right. So, Gakwandi, maybe you have been in that position. Maybe you have not been in that position. How do you begin, you know, asking for forgiveness, being the other person who's wronged another person?
I think I love speaking from my experience, because sometimes experience give more reality of the issue, you know. I remember, because after when one of my funny stories that I came in Kenya looking for a house help job, you know, but find a family from Rwanda who adopt me as their own child. And while I was living that family, this family loved me so much, up to date. But in 2019, I think, 2019 in April, I made a mistake. I got angry, I started, you know, I did something wrong. And for sure, I knew I have done wrong. But the courage to go back and humble myself and ask for forgiveness, you feel like something is cutting from inside. Your heart is breaking because you have to put down your pride. Because nobody wants to admit they have done something wrong. So I had to put my pride down and just look the importance of my relationship with my family. And also put in balance, this is the people who adopted me. And they have loved me. They took me to school. Sometimes you need to put on the scale of seeing the good thing and the bad thing, you know. Because if you focus on the bad thing, I mean, you know, you are not going to see the good thing. I remember I went home, and when I saw my dad, the family who adopted me, I cried, because I was like, I can't even say I'm sorry. But the moment I say I am sorry, I cried. And it relieved the baggage I was carrying in my heart. So I will say that most of the people, we don't have that courage to say I'm sorry because of the pride, because you don't want to admit that you have done something wrong. But for sure, I will say, without fear of contradiction, if you don't ask for forgiveness, there's some blessing. The people who believe in God, you're going to break, because even as we sin every day and God forgive us, who are we not to forgive? And if you have done something wrong, put the pride aside and focus on what is important. The families are the most important people. And I remember after that, our relationship becomes stronger than before.
All right.
Because I had to put them, which is not easy, I would say.
Right. It is not an easy position, I can imagine.
Sure.
I mean, Cynthia, being in a position where some would say it's a vulnerable situation or a position, you're on the other side where, you know, sort of helpless.
Yeah.
But how do you begin saying, look, I wronged you? And it's a really hard. I have been there.
Hey,
it's a completely difficult position to say, I am sorry.
Yes.
How hard is it?
Oh my, Zainab. I think we need to have a healing and reconciliation.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's very difficult because one thing she said is that we are prideful. We want to hold on to past mistakes. We want to hold others at higher, you know, we want them to hold them at higher account than ourselves.
Right.
So the first thing, highly emotionally intelligent people will self-evaluate and recognize that they're not perfect. They will recognize that in relationships there's going to be conflict. And I'm truly loving this generation. They're Generation Alpha, the children that we are bringing up, because they're very, very, very aware of when hurt happens. I would not have been able to tell my mom or my dad, you hurt me, because first of all, the eye that you will get, you will, you know.
How dare you?
How dare you even think that you can get hurt in my house, you know? How dare you even think? But my kids will come and tell me, Mom, you hurt me, and you hurt me doing this and this. So this is the first thing. Evaluate yourself. And I feel as a relationship and as a relationship coach, it is very, very important, because of the people you have around you, to constantly evaluate. Periodically look at yourself and say, what are the things that I have said or done that needs to be checked? We need to self-check. We are not perfect. With your spouse, what are the things that you have said this week that would actually be injurious? So self-check. Then the second most important thing is that start by forgiving yourself. Because one of the things that I find is that I'm not perfect. Hey, I'm not perfect. I have to learn to forgive Cynthia. Learn to understand that, yes, her mouth can run. Yes, she can become angry. Yes, I acknowledge that and start by forgiving me. But also understanding what are the areas of growth for Cynthia. Because let me tell you something, it's easy to say, please forgive me, Zainab, but I will repeat it next week. So even as I plan to forgive you, or I mean you to forgive me, it is very important that when I come to you, I can say, Zainab, I believe yesterday I hurt you when I said. Be factual, be very clear what it is that you acknowledge you have done for the person or to the person. Sorry that I went ahead and took your lunch from the lunch break room. I'm sorry that I did that. That is called stealing. Acknowledge what your sin is. And then what's your next course of action? I'm sorry that I did this, and I promise that I will not do that again with God's help. I will not do it again because I know I truly hurt you. Now, once I do that, I have extended myself to you in humility. The natural human process is that you will extend yourself. And if you don't, that is fine. My freedom has begun. My healing process has begun. Now, the thing that is very important for me is to then make a decision that this particular behavior is a behavior that needs to change. Do I have a problem of taking people's lunch? Because I could be a chronic thief. Oh, what is the problem? What is the problem that I need to acknowledge there's a problem?
You need to find the root of
I need to find the root.
Right.
And then fix the problem. We have a lot of people who are quick to walk around and ask for forgiveness, but are not fixing the problems. So they continue to propagate the issues all over the street. So we have so many body bags in the streets of the people who you have continually hurt and asked for forgiveness. Forgiveness means that even for me, I need to change my behavior. I need to transform it and become a better human being for society to be able to live with me.
But unfortunately, there's that thing, that pride, that ego.
Yes, it takes quite a bit of humility.
That stops people from moving forward and actually, you know, sort of creating a better relationship with the people around them. Do you think, Gakwandi, from your own experience as well, perhaps if you are in a position to take up, you know, family counseling, right? To just have a sit down with the people who feel have hurt you or you have hurt, to sit down in a safe space to talk about these issues, that it would perhaps help? Because I think that is one avenue that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's a space, it's a position, it's a place that people can go to, family counseling.
I think it can help because speaking out really helps. I never knew that how it's so powerful to speak out what you have gone through until it helps me.
Right.
Because when you speak out, is that you are let it go of that thing that is eating you from inside to come out, you know. But the problem is that sometimes in a family, the setup, unless you have another person, a therapist, you know, so that you can be able to sit together and say, you know what, you hurt me here. But if it's only the family, I mean,
but opening that conversation, or even talking about, look, let's go talk to, you know, a person who's an outsider, an expert who would understand the, you know, the dynamics around this relationship, is difficult to begin with.
I think it helps to bring somebody who is not part of your family. They will understand. But family alone, I mean, it will be a fight. But what I have seen, parents, they love when you come and say, I'm sorry. They love that. But from them to recognize what they have done is difficult. But you see, that setup, somebody doesn't know you, doesn't know your parents, doesn't know your family. So it will really help now to bring the conversation and the conciliation between, for which, as she said, people may ask for forgiveness, they repeat and they repeat. So, I mean, it's up to you to know that forgiveness is for you.
Forgiveness is for you. All right. And Cynthia, when we talk about, you know, love, how can we fill our family life with love? Where do we begin having, you know, an environment where we thrive within our own families, you know, from the nuclear family to an extended family setup, having, you know, a healthy relationships?
Yes, yes. Wow, love is beautiful. Love is, I cannot think about love and not think about God, because God is love. So a healed person, a person who has gone through the process of healing, is able to love and love God's way. And love without any, without holding back. Because what happens is that if I haven't forgiven, I am holding back, I am conditional. My love is conditioned. It's based on, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. If you say this, I will say this. But love by itself is such a strong word, because it's the condition of who God is. And so within the context of family, love is not based on what somebody has done. Love is. Love is. So that then my child can have said something wrong because she's a child, but my love towards her does not change. You see, what happens is that we tend to love a commodity kind of love, where you give this and the return of it is the love apportioned by what you give. But we need to teach people that love is not conditional. Love is. So that then the relationship between me and my parents and I is love. Then there's a responsibility for that. Okay? We will deal with the conflict. We will deal with the communication. We will deal with that. But the love is not taken out of context. Love is. So I can still love my parents, or I can still love my children and still be able to punish them as a result of misbehavior. I usually tell my children that, my daughters, Mommy, I love you. I love you so much. However, this behavior needs to be taken care of, because that is wrong. It hurts people. So for them to be able to understand that love is not based on what you do. It's who you are.
All right. And Gakwandi, as we wind up, looking at how you perceive life, your perspective of life right now, and the relationship that you have. I don't know if you have children or not, but anyway. So, but the people around you, the people who you love, the people who you're close to. From your experience, do you think that has shaped how you handle the situation you're in right now? In case you meet, a situation where it puts you in a place of vulnerability, perhaps where you have to forgive, or you need to forgive. Do you think that it has shaped you to be who you are?
For sure, it has really shaped me in a way that I'm so sensitive on what I talk to people. And I don't speak anything because I know words hurt. You may go and say, I'm sorry, but words, people never forget. So with how I grew up and how I was raised, it kind of made me to be sensitive, the things I speak. And also with the experience I had in 2019, asking for forgiveness and how I felt. Now I'm very keen on the people who are around me, and also learning, and it's something that you always pray about God to help you, because it's a learning journey. Because today I may forgive, but tomorrow I find it so difficult. And also as a Christian, we know sometimes people may hurt you in the church, and you have to see them every day, and they are preaching the word of God, and you have to say amen. It's a learning journey, and for which I have learned to say, God, I don't forgive them because of them. I'm forgiving them because it's for me. I have learned forgiveness is for me, not for the person who hurt me. And that's the message I preach. When you hear me speaking my story, don't think I'm here to speak bad about this person. I'm here to speak my story on how forgiveness brought healing in my life.
All right. And just a comment here from someone called Gusi Chief saying, and responding to what Cynthia had said, that the first process of healing is accepting that I've been hurt. Healing is a journey. He says, and then the second process is accepting the outcome, whether that person says yes or no.
Yes. True. And I love that. Yes. Accepting the outcome, because it may not go the way you want it to go.
Right. I mean, it could be, you could actually end up taking much longer. It is, everybody has their own journey. So it could actually take longer for you to heal. Or could even take a day or a minute to say, look, I'm done, and they completely forget the experience that they had gone through. Correct?
Yes.
All right. I'll just give you perhaps just a couple of seconds to make a closing remark as we move forward. What would you like to tell those people who are watching right now, perhaps in a position where they are in a conflict situation with family members? How do they move forward to ensuring that, look, they live in a more peaceful, healthy relationship?
Wow. I would tell the families today is that break free from the prison of unforgiveness. Break free for your freedom, for your children's freedom, for your future generation. Break free. Forgiveness is not an event, it's a journey, and it starts with me. It starts with you making that decision and creating the environment that is peaceful, that is conducive for constant communication within that family. That's the beginning for me.
All right. Gakwandi, your final thoughts?
For me, I will say that just always remember this. You never chose the family you were born, and you never change it. Forgiveness is for you, not for the people who hurt you. Always remember that. Forgiveness is for you, not for the people who hurt you. And after seeing how many young people struggle with their forgiveness, I wrote a book called How to Cope with Life Challenge, because I speak my story and helping young people on how can you heal from the people who hurt you, the process of healing, the forgiveness, because I felt like if I made it, somebody else can make it. Thank you.
All right. And let me just get a quick statement here that I found very interesting. And it says, nothing shapes you more profoundly than the home you grew up in. It could be anything. It radically shapes who you are as a person, how you think, how you view the world, and very importantly, how you relate to other people. And it's also very important to realize that every family has its own issues. It is all a matter of how you deal with that and move forward from that. I think this was a fantastic conversation, and I hope we can still have more time later to continue with this conversation of forgiveness and healing. Maybe just delve much deeper into perhaps even parent-children relationship and how that affects people. But Cynthia Wamboi Otieno, life coach, also Love Life relationship coach. Thank you so much for joining us. We also did have Gakwandi Alian. Thank you so much. You're the founder and managing director of Hope Mentorship Program, also an author. Very interesting. Asante ni sana kwa kukuja leo asubuhi. We do appreciate that. You can continue having a conversation with us. The hashtag we're using is YourWorld at NTV Kenya. My name is Zera Bismal. Good morning.
Thank you.